This warehouse grows food for 20,000 people without soil. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it's not. Across the world, vertical farms are popping up in cities, transforming abandoned warehouses, high-tech greenhouses, and even skyscrapers into futuristic food factories. These aren't traditional farms with acres of soil and tractors. Instead, they're stacked layers of plants growing under LED lights, watered by recycled systems, and monitored by artificial intelligence. Vertical farming is more than just a cool concept. It might be the answer to one of the biggest problems humanity faces: how to feed nearly 10 billion people by 2050 while farmland shrinks and the climate becomes more unpredictable. Today, we're going inside the world's largest vertical farms to see how they work, why they're so expensive, and how they could change the future of farming forever. The rise of vertical farming. For centuries, farming has been tied to land and weather. If you didn't have fertile soil, good rainfall, or the right climate, farming was tough. But vertical farming flips this idea upside down. Literally, instead of spreading crops across acres of fields, vertical farms grow them in tall, stacked layers inside controlled environments. This method first gained serious traction in the early 2000s, when scientists and entrepreneurs started experimenting with hydroponics and LED lighting. Today, companies like Aero Farms in New Jersey, Plenty in California, and Emirates Crop One in Dubai run some of the largest vertical farms in the world. These farms can grow millions of pounds of food annually, right in the middle of urban areas. The reason for this rise is simple: efficiency. Vertical farms use less land, less water, and no pesticides. And by growing food closer to where people live, they cut down on transportation costs and carbon emissions. In a world struggling with food insecurity and environmental challenges, vertical farming is being hailed as a possible game changer. Hydroponics, farming without soil. At the core of most vertical farms is hydroponics, a method of growing plants without soil. Instead, plants are placed in trays or tubes, and their roots sit in a nutrient-rich water solution. Pumps constantly circulate this solution, delivering exactly the right amount of nutrients each plant needs. The advantage? Plants don't waste energy searching for nutrients in the soil. They get them delivered directly. This means faster growth, higher yields, and more consistent results. Leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, and kale thrive in hydroponic systems, which is why they're the most common crops in vertical farms. Hydroponics also uses up to 90% less water than traditional farming, since the water is recycled through the system instead of draining away. In places like the Middle East, where water scarcity is a massive issue, hydroponics makes vertical farming not just useful, but essential. Aquaponics, fish and plants, working together. Some vertical farms take things a step further with aquaponics, a system that combines fish farming with plant farming. Here's how it works. Fish are raised in tanks, and their waste produces ammonia. Bacteria convert that ammonia into nitrates, which are natural fertilizers for plants. The plants, in turn, filter the water, which cycles back to the fish tanks. This creates a closed-loop ecosystem where nothing goes to waste. You get two food sources, fresh vegetables and fish, from the same system. While aquaponics is more complex to set up than hydroponics, it's also one of the most sustainable models of farming ever invented. Some vertical farms are experimenting with aquaponics to supply both local vegetables and seafood to urban markets. Imagine a grocery store where the lettuce and tilapia on your plate were grown together just a few miles from your home. That's not just futuristic, it's happening right now. Aeroponics, growing food in the air. Then there's aeroponics, perhaps the most futuristic of them all. Instead of soil or water tanks, plants are suspended in the air, and their roots are misted with a fine spray of nutrient solution. NASA has researched aeroponics for space travel. Since it's lightweight, efficient, and doesn't require soil, aeroponics can use up to 95% less water than traditional farming, while also allowing plants to grow faster thanks to maximum oxygen exposure at the roots. Companies like Aero Farms have made aeroponics their specialty, growing millions of pounds of leafy greens in warehouses that look more like high-tech factories than farms. The beauty of aeroponics is its scalability. Because the system is so efficient, you can grow more food in smaller spaces. In a world where urban real estate is expensive, aeroponics gives vertical farms a massive edge inside the world's largest vertical farms. Now let's take a look at some of the biggest vertical farms on the planet. In Newark, New Jersey, Aero Farms runs a massive facility inside an old steel mill. Covering 70,000 square feet, it can grow up to 2 million pounds of leafy greens every year. What's amazing is that they don't use a single ounce of soil. Everything is grown aeroponically under LED lights. In Dubai, Emirates Crop One built the world's largest vertical farm in 2022. It's 330,000 square feet, about the size of 66 football fields stacked together. This facility can grow over 1 million kilograms of leafy greens annually, using 95% less water than traditional farming. Considering Dubai is surrounded by desert, this farm is a lifeline for local food security. Meanwhile, in Japan, vertical farms have been booming since the 2011 Fukushima disaster, when radiation contamination sparked a push for safer, controlled farming environments. Companies there are now producing vegetables indoors on an industrial scale, proving that vertical farming can be both a response to crisis and a sustainable business. The benefits of vertical farming. So why are governments and investors pouring billions into vertical farms? The benefits are hard to ignore. First, they save space. Instead of needing acres of farmland, vertical farms stack crops in layers, producing much more food per square foot. This is especially critical in crowded cities where land is scarce and expensive. Second, they use fewer resources. With hydroponics, aquaponics, or aeroponics, water use drops by up to 95%. Fertilizer and pesticide usage also shrink dramatically since the environment is closed and controlled. Third, they bring food closer to consumers. Instead of shipping lettuce thousands of miles across the country, vertical farms can grow it right in the middle of the city. That means fresher food, lower transportation emissions, and more resilience against supply chain disruptions. And finally, they can produce food year-round, regardless of weather or climate. No droughts, no floods, no freezing winters. Vertical farms are essentially weatherproof. The challenges of vertical farming. Of course, vertical farming isn't perfect. One of the biggest challenges is cost. Building and operating a vertical farm can run into the tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. LED lighting, climate control systems, AI monitoring, and robotics aren't cheap. Energy use is another challenge. Keeping thousands of LED lights running 24/7 consumes a lot of electricity. While renewable energy can help offset this, the energy demand of large vertical farms is still a major concern. Then there's the question of crops. Right now, vertical farms mostly grow leafy greens and herbs because they grow quickly and don't need much space. Growing staple crops like wheat, rice, or corn indoors is still far too expensive and inefficient compared to traditional farming. So while vertical farms are incredible for certain types of food, they won't replace traditional agriculture entirely. Not yet, at least. The future of urban farming. Despite these challenges, the future of vertical farming looks incredibly bright. Technology is improving rapidly, and costs are gradually coming down. As renewable energy becomes cheaper and more widespread, powering vertical farms sustainably will get easier. We may also see hybrid farming systems in the future, where traditional farms grow staple crops while vertical farms focus on fruits, vegetables, and herbs in urban centers. Imagine skyscrapers with entire floors dedicated to farming, grocery stores with farms on the roof, and neighborhoods powered by local food systems. Some futurists even believe that as space exploration advances, vertical farming will be key to growing food on Mars or the Moon. After all, if you can grow food indoors without soil on Earth, why not in space? Vertical farming is more than just a futuristic concept. It's happening right now. From massive warehouses in the US to desert farms in Dubai, this technology is proving that we can grow food more efficiently, sustainably, and closer to home than ever before. Sure, it's expensive and has its challenges, but the potential is enormous. In the next 20 to 30 years, vertical farms might become as common in cities as shopping malls or office towers. And as the world faces growing populations, climate change, and food insecurity, these high-tech farms might just hold the key to feeding the future. So the next time you walk into a grocery store, take a look at the lettuce or spinach on the shelf. There's a good chance that someday soon, it'll come not from a field, but from a skyscraper farm just down the street.